Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Cooking with Unity from scratch to published. You probably know all the drill by now, but I'm going to say it again anyway. We've got a Kickstarter. It's in the link. If you like this program and you want it to stay free and you want it to stay available for everyone forever, please support the Kickstarter. If this Kickstarter is successful, it will be free for everyone forever. If it is not successful, I have to put it behind a paywall because I have to pay the rent somehow. If it's super successful, I'll even release $500,000. I'll even release all these videos for free under CC0 for anyone to use for anything. Anyway, on with the show. So, on our last exciting episode, on the last episode we did work on the on Apple iOS and Apple iOS and Macintosh publishing stuff, and we ran into a couple more stags. These ones are a little bit more interesting, but suffice to say, we're moving right along. We'll be doing probably one episode every day regarding the publishers for the next few days, just so that we have registrations done and so that we're ready to publish once we have our game finished. So on the last time that we worked on the project, though, what we got in was something that you could actually kind of call a game at this point. It has all of the things that you expect from a game. It has gameplay, it has input, it has a losing condition, and it has a score. There's no win condition. This is an infinite type game, so it doesn't exactly need one. But yes, so as it is right now, we've got a score and a high score. Now, the gameplay is not particularly engaging yet, but it's here. And when you die, and it saves your score. The saves actually persist across plays. We actually are saving them to player prefs locally. And it's starting to become something. This is starting to look like a game. So it still needs an art pass. It still needs a lot of polish. It needs more things that you can do, more obstacles. Just leaving it at pillars is probably not going to be particularly interesting. Probably needs a little bit of level design. I want to actually kind of have some sort of hybrid, like at least a starting sequence that is consistent, so that it eases the player into the game. So, what we're going to be doing today is probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but we're going to be doing a title screen, and we're going to be doing navigation between the title screen and the game. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to start with a new scene. We're going to create a new scene, and I'm going to go ahead and save this scene as title screen. And we're going to put it into the scenes folder. Alright, so now if we go into scenes, you'll see that there's title screen here, and you'll see that it says titlescreen.unity, make a game now. So, looking good. So, our default scene is just like it was before. We got the blue emptiness, which I am going to change to be a black emptiness on this scene. We're going to have a very Spartan title screen to start with. This is still not going to be art passed yet, so this is we might do a little bit, but we're probably just going to get a basic mock-up of a title screen going. So we're going to be doing a lot of text objects on this screen. So we're going to create some 3D text. 3D text is what I recommend for if you need any text elements, because it's more versatile than using the GUI text stuff, and typically it's easier to work with. There's a couple caveats. The first time you use it, it may not make all that much sense. Somehow this got to Z195, so let's make it Z0. And let's hit game, and you can see that we have some text that says Hello World, and it doesn't look particularly good. So let's first make it look better. So by default, we have this font size setting and scale, and these actually work independently. And you can scale things up on the font size, and you can scale things up on the scale. So one of the ways to fix the blurry-looking text that you typically run into is to increase the font scale and then decrease the scale. So let's do 0.1 and 0.1. And so now you'll have this nice, crisp text that looks a lot better than it did before. It probably has some amount of cost of on memory for the size of the text, but generally you want it to actually look good. You don't want to just have it look blurry like that. You can use different fonts. I'm just going to be using Arial because it's built in for right now. And text by default anchors on the upper left and has a left alignment. We're actually going to change that to be middle center and center alignment. And what we're going to do is... so now if you look in the scene, we can see that we have the text here. It's centered based on this widget here. And it just says Hello World, which is a throwback to old programming books and guides. The first guides for programming ever written, well, some of the first ever written, included Hello World as the first practice. You would just print that on the screen. So what we're going to put here instead is we're going to put a title screen. So we don't actually have a title for our game. So I'm going to call it Make a Game Now for right now, while we come up with something much cooler. We're going to go ahead and go into the game view. And while you're in the game view, you can still nudge things around. So I'm going to move the Y up here. And we're just calling it Make a Game Now for right now. And I'm going to create, I'm just going to call this title text. Not tile text, title text, not tilde text, but title text. And then we're going to create, I'm going to just duplicate it. So Command D or Control D if you are on Windows. And we'll just call this one Press Start. I'm going to call it Press Start, but it's not going to actually say Press Start. It's going to say probably different things depending on our platform. We will talk about platform-specific code later. But what this is going to say is press any key to start. It's good to give the players some level of instructions on the screen, and in this case, if you press any key, the game will start. On mobile platforms, we're going to want it to say something like touch the screen to start, or we might even have a menu here where it says new game and you tap different things. But right now, we're just going to keep it really basic and just get the screen in there so that we have some flow. So make a game now, press any key to start. So I'm going to save this scene and save project, and we're going to check this into source tree. You should always check in often, just because it gives you more granularity if something goes wrong. So we're just going to call this basic, extremely basic title screen. Push commits immediately to origin. All right. So now we need some logic in here. So I'm going to create a new script. We're going to call this load level on any key. And I'm going to double click it and we're going to start editing it. This is going to be another simple script. All of our scripts are going to be relatively simple. Our most complex one is going to be the game manager. As you can see, it's already exploded in size. Everything else has been pretty basic. We've got several one-liners. This mouse look isn't even ours. We've got this one's a little bit more complex, but still not complex. And this one we've got a few things here that are, but I mean nothing's over 50 lines with the exception of game manager. Game manager is huge. So, and it probably will remain that way. So, load level on any key. What we're going to be doing here is we should specify what level we want to load. So we're going to do a public string level name. And there's not a real good meaningful default to put in here, so I'm not going to put one. We're going to just say level name. And what we're going to do in this script is... if input.anyKey down, and it's still doing that. I forgot to look into why or how to fix that. We'll just have to fight it for now. Alright, so if input.anyKey down, what we're going to do is we're going to do application, we've done this before, dot load level and we're going to type in level name. So this will load whatever level we have specified in the script. So if we save this, I'm going to create an empty game object. We're going to call this load level on any key. It doesn't have to be called that, but I'm just going to call it the same thing as a script because that's all this thing's going to do. And our level name in this case is going to be scenes level 1. So we're going to do level 1. So now if we hit save scene and save project, if we hit play and we hit a button, nothing will happen. And this is fascinating because we've set it to a level name that we know that we have, but it says level 1 couldn't be loaded because it has not been added in the build settings. So we're going to look at a new screen here. So we're going to go to build settings, and we're going to find out that there are no scenes in our build. Now, games can still reference the level that you've loaded themselves, which is why our reset script still worked on the previous episodes. But if you try to load another level, it has to actually be in this list to work. This list is the list of levels that actually get published with your game. If you're doing special stuff on different platforms, you may have different levels in different builds, and that's part of the reason that it does it this way. It does not put any assets that aren't referenced by levels that aren't in your build reference here. So we're going to add our current level, and I'm going to go ahead and drag in level 1. So now we have both our title screen and level 1 added to the system. So if we hit play now and hit any key, there's level 1, and it loads up just nicely. So we have a title screen, it's functional, and we can move into our level, and when we die, it resets, and we immediately reset into the game. That's probably not the flow that we want to keep. So I'm going to save the project. We're going to check this stuff in. As I said, check in early, check in often. It's just like saving, but better because it's not on your computer. It's on a safer computer somewhere else that's not going to burst into flames or be stolen. So, what are we doing here? This is title screen to game flow. So that was pretty easy, really basic, but really basic example, but pretty easy to set up. So I'm going to hit play again, and I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to now go into level 1, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the behavior here for when we die, for what happens when we die. So what I'm going to go into is the game manager. And right now we have it if game over, if any key down, load level, application loaded level. So I'm going to actually change this. I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to change the message to say hit any key, to reset is not too bad, to quit. Save that. And then what we're going to do is instead of application.loaded level, we're going to load the title screen. So I'm going to create a another value here, public float, public string. We could just hard code this, but just in case, I'm going to have it so that we can change this, especially if we run into some platform specific problems. It might solve problems later. Public string title screen name equals title screen, because we know that we're going to probably be using a name like that, and that'll at least make it so this will be faster. So now if we hit play and we die, bam, press any key to quit, and it did not work. So, and that's because we didn't actually change this line to use our title screen name. So we're going to copy that and paste it here instead of application.loaded level. Save. All right, play. Let's try this again. Yay, we're dodging things, and it's a game. It's all cool like that. All right, bam. So press any key to quit. There we go. Make a game now. Press any key to start. Bam, we're back in the game. We have a full flow here. Sweet! So that's awesome. So, what else can we do with this stuff? So first of all, I'm going to see in the comments what people are saying, if anything, and we'll see if there's anything that we want to steer this thing towards. 0 comments. No one cares. All right. Sweet. So that means we're going to be going back and what are we doing? So what I'd like to do is I traditionally on my little projects that I usually do for Ludum Dare or Ludum Dare, whatever is pronounced, I like to put my high score information on the title screen so you know what to actually be aiming for. And this is actually going to be a little bit tricky because we're going to have to persist the data between levels. Actually, we don't strictly have to because we have it saved, don't we? We can cheat on that. Yeah, it's not really cheating. I mean, everything... Okay, so either everything is cheating in making games or nothing is cheating because there's really... Like, if it works, right? And, I mean, if it works right. If it's not working right, then it's not working right. But, I mean, like, if the back end is doing things really strangely and it's not anything you can notice on the front end, as far as I'm concerned, whatever you've done back there, who cares? As long as it works. So, what we're going to do is... I'm going to create a new text, what is it called? 3D text. Actually, this is the reason why I duplicated the other ones. I'm going to duplicate one of our existing texts, and we're going to call this high score. And we're going to get rid of the load level and... Oh, wait. I duplicated the wrong thing. I duplicated load level on any key and not one of the texts. So we're going to call this high score, and it's going to say high score and a colon. We're going to move the press start stuff down a little bit. I'm going to put it -3. And high score text. Yeah, this will be good. And I'm also going to go ahead and put... This will be a little... Okay, so let's just do the high score first. I'm going to find a way to not, quote-unquote, cheat on this. Or be encouraged not to. So our high score, we're going to need a little script to actually display that. So we're going to create a new C# script, and we're going to call this display high score. All right. So all we're going to do on this thing is on start, we're going to get the text component that's attached to our script. So we're going to create a reference to a text component called text mesh equals get component text mesh. Text mesh is actually what the 3D text has on it. If you look at here, it says text mesh here. Even though when you create it, it says 3D text, is actually just creating something that has a text mesh component on it. So we're going to get the text mesh component. This means get whatever component's on my object named text mesh. If it can't find it, it will be null. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set text mesh.text equal to, and actually I'm going to put a little variable here. We're going to do public, actually let's not do it in there. Let's just have it set up in the editor. So we're going to do private string original, or I'm going to call it label. And we're going to say set label. We're first going to set label equals text mesh dot text. And then what we're going to set text mesh dot text to is we're going to do label plus, and then we're going to do we're going to get our high score out of the player pref. So player prefs dot get int high score. We actually didn't capitalize the S on that for some reason, but I remember we didn't, so that's good. And so this should, in theory, work. So if we attach this script to our high score here, so if we go to, where is it called, display high score, and attach it in here, and hit play, it now says our high score. But I'd like to have a space between the actual label and that, so I'm just going to put space here, and it will show up, because we are actually reading in what that is originally, and then we are modifying it. We're adding the score to the right of it. So now we can see our high score before we start the game. The users will not see it not have the high score. It will be instantaneous. By the time the screen actually shows up on their device, it will have the high score there. So I'd also kind of like it if I could review my previous score. Like if I'm going for a another high score and I want to know how close I was and I want to show my friends how close I was, it might be nice to be able to see the previous score. As I said, this stuff is simplistic. We might be improving this stuff as we get more menu flow in here. So I'm going to go ahead and create another. I'm going to move this one down to -1, and we're going to duplicate it. And we're going to move it up to 1. And we're going to call this previous score. And I'm going to rename this to previous score. Actually, I'm going to call it last game. All right. And I put a space there so that we could do a similar trick with the script that we used for pulling this out. So the problem right now is we don't have that stored anywhere. But there's a few places that might make sense to store. So we could do this two ways. We could either store it in player prefs, or we could persist the game manager so that it exists on this scene as well, and persists between the scenes, so it keeps this information from the last play. What I'm going to do is the latter. It's a little bit more complex, but the singleton pattern is really powerful, and a lot of times we're going to want to have the ability to maintain this thing over multiple levels. Definitely, if we have levels, we're going to want the score and all of the game manager stuff to persist to the next level. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that up so that can happen. So our game manager right now has an instance that we can access. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this, modify this behavior a little bit. We're not going to just set the instance every time the start happens. We're only going to set it if instance equals null. Then we will set our instance. And thank you for breaking everything again, MonoDevelop. So if it equals null, then we set this instance. The reason you use double equals, by the way, instead of single equals is because equals just means set this to null. Luckily, most compilers will actually warn you about that now if you try to set something to null in an if statement. But in the old days, it might not. Equals explicitly says I'm comparing the left side with the right side. No, I'm not equating. I'm not setting the left side to the right side. This is setting the left side to the right side. This is comparing the left side to the right side. So if it's null, then we set the instance to this. Else, I think this is our first else statement. Come on. This is killing me. This is new. Like, this was not a problem I was having on the last thing I installed. On my other install, it's not this bad. Maybe it's because some of my saves are older or something, like holdover. All right, so else we're going to destroy this game object. We're going to destroy game object. And the reason being is if we already have one of these things going, we don't want another one going. And what we're going to do after everything is we're going to use a special function called don't destroy on load, and we're going to give it our game object here. What this means is when we load a new level, it will not destroy this. By default, if you load a level, it destroys every single object in your scene and then loads the new scene. What we're telling it is to not destroy this one and just leave it and bring it into the next scene. So you'll start to see why we're doing all this stuff in a moment here. Let's see, what else do we want to do here? Okay, so now we've got this done, and I'm going to go ahead and create a private. Actually, I'm not going to make it private. I'm going to make it public, but we're not going to be able to see it. Public float. Actually, public int previous score equals 0.0f. Sorry, 0, because it's not a float, it's an int. And we're going to hide this in the inspector. Hide in inspector. This makes it so that we know that we're not supposed to change that value. Privates don't show up in the inspector as it is. Publics always do, unless you tell them to not show up. And so that's what I'm doing here. The reason I'm making it public, though, is so that we can access this from another script. So now we've got the previous score here. And when we die, we should go ahead and set the previous score here. So I'm going to put it here. So previous score equals score. And then what are we going to do? So let's see how this works so far. Let's see if we can integrate with this. So I'm going to check to see if, okay, we got some errors here. We cannot implicitly convert a float to an int, so we're going to change this to an int and hit save. And now what we need to do is we need to get the previous score. So I'm going to create another script, create C# script, display previous score. And what this is going to do is it's going to be extremely similar. Just going to copy all of this. This may be a case for a subclass, but I'm not going to do that right now. And what we're going to do is instead of playerprefs.getInstance high score, we're going to do plus game manager dot instance dot previous score. And if we hit save and then put this on our previous score object, I'm going to get rid of the high score component here. We're going to hit play and we're going to get an error. So we got a null reference exception, object reference not set to an instance of an object. And what this means is what something in this line isn't initialized. And in this case, it is the game manager instance. So we could, this will return null right now. But this returns, what are you even trying to do? Because I just tried to get previous score of something that was null. It doesn't even know what this object is at this point. It's like, what are you trying to do? And the reason being is we don't have a game manager in our scene here. So there's a couple ways we could fix this. We could put a game manager in our scene. We could make a habit of putting a game manager in every scene. Or we could have the game manager automatically make itself if someone tries to reference it. The latter's a little bit more complex, but I'm going to do it because it's kind of fun and it's interesting. So we're going to go to our game manager here. And right now, if instance equals null, instance equals this, else destroy game object. So what we need to do is we need to somehow tell when someone's trying to access our instance variable. And then once someone accesses it, we are going to just very quickly, we're going to be like, oh, yeah, totally, we got this thing. And we're going to build this thing, and we're going to hand it off. And the way we're going to do that is by using a property. So all of these things that we've been doing so far are variables. What this is going to be is this property. And actually, I'm going to have to reorganize this a little bit. So we're going to have a public static game manager instance, but we're actually going to rename this. I'm going to just call it _instance. This is to let us know that it is a very much an internal thing. So we're going to rename that in the cases that we use instance here. And we're going to create a property called public static game manager instance. And we're going to use a different nomenclature here. We're going to have a get method inside here. And so you can basically have a get and a set method. Get is what you do when you are accessing it, and set is what you do when you are setting it. We're not going to have a set method on this at all. It cannot be set. I'm also going to actually make this a private static game manager instance, because we'll be able to access the actual instance through our public interface here. So I'm going to hit save, and this is going to, this actually doesn't do much yet. We need to actually return something. So what we want to return is return instance. Now everything that we have so far, with the exception of our previous score problem, I'm going to go ahead and disable this right now, should just work. So if we hit play now, everything that we had before should work, and we shouldn't have any errors. And it looks like so far so good. So we've changed it now so that the logic is identical to what it was before, even though it's a little bit differently organized. So the problem is we're still going to have a problem if we try to run this scene, because it still doesn't know what's going on. So we're going to actually add some logic in here. We're going to do if underscore instance does not equal null, then we return the instance. However, else, we are going to make ourselves a game object, and we're going to attach the script to it. So we're going to do a new game object, and we can actually give it a name here right now too. And actually we can even give it components right away. Ooh, how does that work? I'm going to try something here. I've never actually done this before. So let's give it a name. So we're going to call it game manager, and we're going to give it a component. I wonder how this works. So if we just type in, let's just experiment with this. I'm going to type in the component of game manager, and just see what happens. I don't think that's going to work. I think we're going to have to say type of. Yeah, there's a type. So let's say type of game manager. I think this is how it's going to work. Nope. Not all code paths return a value. Oh, that's right. So new game object, game manager. So we're going to call this... Okay, I don't actually want to do it this way because I want to actually get the reference to the component. So we're going to do new game object, game manager, and then we're going to we're going to game object game manager equals new game object game manager, and then game manager dot add component. We're going to add game manager component to it. We're going to try and use the words game manager as much as possible to be as confusing as possible, and then we are going to actually say return game manager dot add component game manager, because what add component does is it actually returns whatever component that you've just added, so that we can actually just immediately have a reference to it and return it. So in theory, if we hit save here, so what this is doing is we're creating a variable called game manager to store our new game object game manager, and then we're returning the component that we just added to the game manager, which represents the same as this instance here. Oh wait, but we forgot one more important thing. Actually, we don't want to do it that way. We, instead of return game manager, we actually want to set underscore instance equals game manager dot add component game manager, and then we are going to return the instance. So if we hit save and we hit play, Bam! We didn't have a problem. Whoops. Or did we not have a problem? Well, it looks like it worked, except for there's one problem. I don't actually see the game manager showing up, which is weird. That's kind of strange that it worked. Wait, if we go to previous score, is this thing actually enabled? It's enabled. It got a 0. But where's our actual game manager? Did it put it on something else? Huh. Our game manager is invisible. That's strange. Does new work differently than it used to work? I'm not missing it here, am I? I don't see anything being added here, and yet it definitely seems to be working. Alright, let's check the internet for this one. Unity, new game object doesn't appear in hierarchy, however you spell hierarchy. Evidently, there. Hide flags, hide in hierarchy. Alright, let's see what this says. Okay, this is not our problem. So I'm going to actually look up some reference material real quick. We're going to search for Unity Singleton. And we're going to look at the Unify Community Wiki. They have a much... Oh, great. They're experiencing technical difficulties. Of course they are. Always when I need things. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we can find a cached version of this. Perfect. And I'm just going to see how they build their instance. So if instance equals null, so this one's looking for other new game object, add component. This one's actually saying the name separately, but otherwise it's supposedly working the same way. Alright, so... Oh, I know the problem. Okay, I see what happened here. So, what happened here is... So let's trace the whole thing here, just so that you guys see what's going on here. So, I'm going to close all the non-pertinent files so that we know what we're looking at. Okay, so we got display previous score. So display previous score comes in here and is like, hey, get me the previous score from the game manager instance. And then it comes in here as like, I don't have a game manager instance, so I'm going to build one right now and return the instance. And then the moment that it does this, this thing gets a previous score out of it and everything's happy. Except for then start happens. And it starts like, if instance equals null, instance equals this. But instance doesn't equals null, it already equals this. So what we want is if instance equals null or instance equals this. And actually we really don't need to set it to this if it equals this. So I'm going to put this in a separate if thing, although this is probably going to mess up all my formatting now, and I really am just, I don't really want to deal with it. But if instance does not equal, I'll just do it in here, whatever. If instance equals null, alright, we'll just make another else if. else if instance equals this. Okay. I just hate that it keeps killing my formatting. What's the one that's going to do the least amount of format damage? Alright, so I'm just thinking this through. Sorry, my brain turned off. So, instance equals null. So, it doesn't equal null. I'm going to put it up here. If instance does not equals this. Well, we don't actually want to do anything. So we just want to, if instance does not equal this, we'll do all of this stuff. Oh, please don't do this. Oh. Okay, alright. Undo. Brought it back, kind of. Okay, good. And then tab. Alright, sweet. Whew. I do not like that. I might just have to disable formatting entirely if it's going to keep fighting me like this. So, if instance does not equal this, if instance equals null, instance equals this, otherwise destroy the game object. Honestly, we should probably only do this stuff. This does not equal this. Oh, we'll just leave that stuff as it is. It's not going to hurt anything. So, now if we hit play, it works, and we can see our game manager is in the scene. Yay. And it says, game over, press any key to quit, because, interesting, because it didn't find a player, so we're already dead. So we're going to have some conflicting logic here. I'm actually curious what happens if I hit a button now. It did actually load the scene. That's good. It also probably tried to load the other scene. Oh yeah, and actually if I press any button while I'm in the game, we're dead, because we haven't reset the score at all. We haven't reset the game over stuff. We might have just opened up Pandora's box here, actually, with the way that we've organized this. So let's put all of whatever was in Pandora's box back in the box. So what we're gonna want to do is, so I'm beginning to think this is probably not the best place to have a game manager, especially considering there's no gameplay actually happening here. So we already have a title screen name, so that might be useful. So let's surround everything in here. If application.loaded level name does not equal title screen name, then we will do game logic stuff. And I'm going to undo. We've just learned this trick. Undo, and then I will manually reflow this to there. Alright. So, if we are not in the title screen, then we do this stuff. And then else, what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to put our reset code. So, we're going to say reset stuff for next game. So what we're going to want to reset is probably a lot of things. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a separate function to do it. So void reset game. And what we're going to do is set previous score. Well, actually, no. Previous score we don't want to affect. We want to set score to 0 equals 0.0f. We don't want to reset the high score. Game over should be false. Game over equals false. Has saved equals false. Has saved equals false. And what else would I like to do? We should probably... We we aren't adjusting the game speed anymore for things, so we're not using it for anything here. I'm just going to leave the rest as is for right now. We may adjust this more later, and then we're actually going to call reset game here. File save. All right, so now if we hit play, here we go. It says score, high score. Unfortunately, it still shows that stuff on the screen. So we're going to add some more logic here. On GUI, we're again going to say if application dot loaded level does not equal title screen name. This is going to get convoluted if we have more levels that have these components in them, so we may actually have to rethink this, but for right now I'm just gonna continue digging myself a hole. So hit play. Oh, I did something wrong. Console not equals load level name. Save. Alright, so now if we hit play, we go, we have a score, high score, everything's good, everything's fine, everything's good. We die. Bam. And it says our last game score. And we go into the game again. It resets. Everything's great. Alright. So I'm going to save scene, save project. We're going to check in these changes. And I'm going to go ahead and take another look at our comments. So, turned game manager into a singleton, which opened Pandora's box. What other horrors await us? Commit. And so I'm going to view this on our watch page. Let's see if we got any comments. Yay, comments. Hey, hello, hey guys. Speaking of singletons, Unify Wiki suggests using a similar kind of script called a toolbox. The code for it is really weird. Toolbox code makes reference to a language. I'm not sure what a toolbox is. Toolbox is a singleton before anything else, but improves on the concept. I'm gonna look into that. I don't know what a toolbox is, so but that's cool. I'll check to see what that type of thing is. In C# formatting, try one of the preset policy presets in the drop-down menu. The Visual Studio format seems similar to what you tried to change it to earlier and seems to work. All right, let me try that actually. So if I go to preferences, wait, where is this? C# formatting. So policy, is it here? I'm afraid of changing from custom because I'm afraid I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to do Visual Studio. Oh, we still have a space there. I'll live. Okay, so let's see if that fixes my problem. So if I type in, say, else, and then we do bam and bam, okay, it didn't reflow. That's a good sign. I'm sticking with it. I can deal with a couple other little problems. Thank you very much. I'm going to save project. Okay, cool. So that's going to make my life a little bit easier, I think. So let's hit play. All right, we got a game. We got a tile screen. 10 more minutes. What can we do in 10 minutes? Is there something fun we could do in 10 minutes? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna call it at this point. I'm tired. I'm slowing down anyway. So, and it's a pretty good stopping point. So I'm going to quit Unity. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that we're all up to date in here, looking good. And I'm gonna quit source tree. So, thank you very much for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, please email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Drakfire. That's DRAKFYRE. Thank you for joining, and you guys have a wonderful night. All right. Yeah, I'm exhausted. It's late. And I had a long day before the shows, too. But yeah, so the post on Reddit seems to be doing pretty well. Welcome Reddit people. Hi, I love you guys. I'm also a Reddit person. Everyone's a Reddit person these days. It's awesome. And yeah, seriously, if you have questions, email me. I don't get a whole lot of emails, so I'm always willing to help, even if it's stuff that's not related to the show. I when I was at Sony, I part of the reason that I was able to learn so quickly is because I had a bunch of people that knew this stuff around me that I could ask questions, and they were all super helpful. And I want to be that resource for people who don't work at Sony and don't work in the games industry and want to learn this stuff and able to break into the game industry or do their own thing. So please email me if you have questions. We're going to be doing more of these tomorrow and the next day, and then I'm going to be taking the weekend off, and then we'll be hitting it hard again on the next week, and hopefully we'll get something published. I'm super excited. A couple things I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about PlayStation Mobile. I haven't actually published for PlayStation Mobile, and I really want to. And I'm actually kind of excited for BlackBerry. I know that sounds stupid, even though we're not going to get to test it on a BlackBerry because I don't have one. And I'm excited for Windows Store stuff because I haven't done it. Like all the stuff I haven't done is what I'm actually most excited because I'm going to be learning it alongside. It also means that I'm going to get the best actual mistakes because I don't know what I'm doing. Though I'm really still impressed with the mistakes I've gotten on Apple Developer because that's the one. Apple is what I've got the most experience with on the publishing, and it's still one of the hardest ones. So, but I don't view it as negatively as most people do, I don't think. Like, I know why they do the stuff that they do, and I actually appreciate that they actually QA stuff a little bit. But yeah. Also, I've heard that Android's been closing up a little bit more, so I need to get that registration stuff going on pretty soon. Anyway, this was all banter. I just was doing stuff for the purposes of not having the show get cut off. I'm going to do one more quick check of what's going on here. What sub is the thread in? It's in our game dev is what it's in. So if you want to go in there and check it out, that would be great. And using Toolbox singleton script and reloading scene HTML. Cool. I'm going to look into that later. But yes, thank you guys for joining, and you guys have a great night. Oh, and that's not how I stop. This is how I stop.